Holton here. Thanks for watching The Hot Zone. We've been in Ukraine now for over a week, and tensions just keep building and building and building, and we're coming down to the wire when the Russian military supposedly is going to attack. All of the signs that we've seen to this point are pointing that way, that the Russians have been moving more and more troops up to the line. They've been making all sorts of very obvious preparations for war. And that's one of the things that tells me that they probably are not going to go through with it, because they're being far too public, far too transparent about their preparations. And so it's obvious to me, at least, that what they're doing is they're grandstanding. The Russians are doing everything they can to bow up, you know, kind of like when you're in high school and you get in a fight with the kid and he's like, yeah, you want a piece of me? That's kind of what Russia's doing right now. And doing that, again, not to bully Ukraine so much, but to bully the West into acceding to its demands, which really is not happening. And so the more that doesn't happen, the more trouble we have, and the more possible that this becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy and Russia actually does attack. I still don't think it's going to happen, though. This church behind me is about 200 years old. I just wanted to point this out before we go any further. This was built obviously before the Soviet Union, but during the Soviet Union it was used for storage, because the Soviet Union's atheist. There's no God but the state, and so they just use this for storage. Very sad, but I'd like to point out that the Soviet Union is now gone and the church is still here. So, you know, there's a lesson in that for America, as more and more faith is pushed to the side and people are told to keep it in their homes or in their hearts, but not in public. No, faith is meant to be lived publicly. And the Soviet government tried to stamp it out and failed miserably. And that's going to be the end of every government that tries to stamp out the church, because people need faith. People need to worship something. Everyone worships something. Okay, so back to the crisis between Ukraine and Russia. We're in a tiny little village that's just a kilometer or so from the red line between temporary occupied zone, here the line of contact between Russian separatist forces and Ukrainian forces on this side. This village had something over 1,000 people in it back before the war started in 2014. Now it's got about 500. The village we were in yesterday was down 95% at the low point, and now is only down about 90% from its original 4,000 people. I don't know if you can see this building over here off to my left, but it's a large school that was built. I estimate that there's between 40 and 80 rooms in that school, depending on how many windows per room, and they have 34 students. So that's one way to guarantee that kids don't catch COVID, is put each one of them in their own room. Maybe that was their plan. We've been talking with a social worker here in this village. There's obviously a lot of poverty, a lot of alcoholism. Yesterday when I was speaking on camera on Newsmax, we're doing some reporting, I literally got accosted by a drunk guy, Russian guy, who was, he didn't speak English, but he heard me making a report and he started shouting, "You're a liar, you're a liar, this is Russia, this is not Ukraine." And he came over and got in the camera and started yelling at the camera. They cut away from me about the time that happened. And then I just pretended to interview the guy. I just stuck the microphone in his face and just sat there and nodded and said, yeah, oh, really? Yeah, oh, that's really interesting. And he ranted for a few minutes. And next thing you know, he starts kissing my hand and giving me hugs. And we were buddies, because I guess sometimes people just want to be heard. And he rant over, and then we could be friends. So it's been an interesting week or so here. I hope that this won't go on too much longer. If we see a line of tanks come over the horizon off that direction, we know we're in trouble. but we only have to move faster than they do, and mechanized columns don't move all that fast, so we should be okay. We've heard some ceasefire violations, some bombs going off in the last couple days here along the line, but my sense is that those are provocations. They're trying to provoke a response from Ukraine so that they can have an excuse to make an incursion. And the Ukrainian military out here that we've spoken to have said that they've been given very strict orders not to shoot back in any of those things. And it seems like that's working. That goes on all the time out here. That's really nothing different. And that's, I think, the biggest story that we've found out here is that the people here going on with their daily lives, as always. They've been under this threat for 8 years. This is nothing new for them. She told us that some people in the village are doing some panic buying and storing that food underground for just in case. But most of them say, I really don't even have a way to run away. And so if they're going to drop bombs on me and kill me, then just let them, because I'm tired of this. I'm tired of living under the threat of this. So Russia needs to either cook or get out of the kitchen at this point. And this has been one of the most interesting and strange missions that I've ever been on as a journalist doing war corresponding, because it's just so, there's this strange dichotomy of massive threats of World War III and huge invasion, and the people in the country that's supposedly being invaded are like, they're really not worried. So I just heard I don't know, some sort of explosion back there. Miles, what do you think that was?
Indirect.
Some kind of indirect fire? Yeah, and it seems like maybe they have a quota of mortar rounds they have to shoot every day. They don't seem to be aiming at much, but just sort of making sure that we know that they're still over there. And let's hope that it stays that way. And really hope for peace in this area, because these people are tired of living under this. They would like to just get on with their lives. And I think a lot of them think, I don't care if they call it Russia or Ukraine, call it whatever you want. The Ukrainians are very patriotic people. They love their country. They love Ukraine. They love the freedom that they have not being under the Soviet system anymore. But they are tired of this, and they would like to just be left alone. So we've likened Vladimir Putin to that jealous ex-boyfriend that says, I don't care who my ex-girlfriend dates as long as it's me. He doesn't want to let it go. And he's making these threats, but then that causes a little escalation in the rhetoric from the West, and that causes a little escalation in the rhetoric from the East. And that's how world wars get started. So let's hope that cooler heads are prevailing in the next day or two, and things are starting to look better. I guess we'll know, probably by the time you see this video, we'll know whether or not anything is going to happen.